Hello, and welcome to the Brooklyn Rail's 246th New Social Environment. I'm Emily Dean, and I have the pleasure and privilege of being your MC today for a radical poetry reading curated by Sadia Hassan. We're also thrilled to have the poets Helene Achanzar, Janice Lobo Sapigao, Nabila Lovelace, and Taylor Johnson here with us today. To begin, I ask you to join me in acknowledging the Wappinger, Canarsie, Munsee, and Lenni Lenape people of the Delaware Nation and Shinnecock Indian Nation, the traditional owners of Lenape-Hoking, the unceded land and waters on which we stand. Finally, the Brooklyn Rail stands in solidarity with the uprisings in response to the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, Nina Pop, David McAdie, James Scurlock, Jamel Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Rayshard Brooks, Rhea Milton, Dominique Remy Fells, Toyin Salau, Walter Wallace Jr., and countless others we have lost to white supremacy and police violence in this country, and acknowledge that justice will come from the streets, from the nation demanding accountability and refusing to move on until Black Lives Matter in the eyes of the state. Before I introduce our curator, we'd like to begin with a brief moment of silence. Thank you. And now to introduce today's curator. Sadia Hassan is the author of Enumeration, Akashic Books 2020, part of the New Generation African Poets, a Chapbook Set. Winner of the 2020 Hurston Wright College Writers Award, Hassan has received fellowships from Hedgebrook, Mesa Refuge, and VONA. More of her work can be found in the American Academy of Poetry, Boston Review, the Rumpus, Longreads, and elsewhere. Sadia, take it away.
Hi, everyone. It is 10 a.m. on the West Coast, and then everything in between from here to New York. Thank you all for joining us. Of course, thank you to Fong Bui and the Rail team, my good friend Sophia Pedlo, and the wonderful, incredible poets that I really admire, and I look forward to hearing their work today. Selfishly, I brought folks together that I was like, I really want to see what they're working on. I want to know what they're reading. But I also just wanted to just think alongside folks who make me feel deeply and whose work makes me lean into joy and think about how we could better prepare for what's coming, whether that means fortifying ourselves with more joy or really thinking about the grief that everyone is really experiencing right now. And alongside the moment of silence we just had, I wonder if we could also just like have another moment of silence for all the people grieving, all the people who've experienced loss, ourselves and others, our neighbors, and just send out love. I think that's what we need right now, as capitalism recklessly careens towards more destruction. I invite us to kind of slow down and honor each other's presence in this room. There's a lot of people that I love in here. And so, yeah, that's it. That's all I wanted to begin with. And so with that, I'm gonna introduce our first reader, a friend of mine, a fellow cat mom, Helene Achanzar. Helene Atkinsar is a Filipina Canadian poet and educator. She was awarded the John and Renee Grisham Fellowship at the University of Mississippi, where she served as the Senior Editor of Yalobusha Review. Her writing can be found in Oxford American, Jubilat, Poetry Northwest, and Sixth Finch. A Kundiman Fellow, Helene is an Associate Editor for Poetry Northwest and works as the programs manager at the Chicago Poetry Center. Go ahead, Helene, take it away.
You should be able to turn it on now. Sorry about that, Helene.
It's okay, thank you.
Quiet before the storm.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. And thanks, Sadia, for gathering us all together. I think this is so wonderful and so fun. So one thing I'd like to think about this, I guess it's afternoon here, but this afternoon, and one thing I've been thinking about lately is failure. I think I've experienced a lot of failure in the first several, I guess just during this pandemic, with lots of rejections and, lots of experiments. And so what I'd like to share with you all today is a bunch of poems and some not yet poems and some experiments that perhaps aren't, in my mind, achieving the thing that they want to do yet. And I'm just feeling very open. I'm in my home right now, and you all are likely in your homes too. So yeah, let's see how it goes, and we'll see how these poems and not yet poems feel. So often during readings, I always want to do like exclusively bangers, but this feels like a nice place to try some things out. So I'll start. Etymology. I've always wanted to be full of meaning, like a woman named Marisol, Mar y Sol, or a man whose parents passed down the name Paniagua, Pan y Agua. I went to Paris to find it. An archaeologist said Achanzar, a small home, a mountain range in northern Spain. Achanzar, from the Basque, like a cottage, a chalet. Of my surname, the amount of beauty required to launch a ship. Miscellaneous flattery, enough to break a baguette in two. So I looked it up. A moon, the lumpy kind. Helene in high res. My parents couldn't have known, naming a baby in Vancouver, what spun in the cosmos. But they rushed to a hospital on a winter's night, beneath the light of a moon with no name. Immigrant narrative. At singing, I am medium good. Gather all my aunties near the magic mic. We pass Peking duck around a lazy Susan. My people watch the kind of game shows with dancing girls. I buy 11 iterations of a gray crew neck, while my mother uses expired lipstick from a caboodle. The aesthetic of Catholicism resembles that of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so I love the Lord. I retain my citizenship in case of cancer, but prefer a surprise American death. My ponytail is low and practical. I raise a fist and yell, Makibaka. My mother asks, what struggle? So I'm coming to you all right now from my apartment in Ukrainian Village in Chicago. And this next poem is about Chicago, and it's specifically the laborers in my city. And it's also me just trying, like pretending I'm Lee Young Lee, and maybe not doing a very good job, but whatever, here it is. Chicago. With yearning do I cast my eyes upon you, who makes the only gesture in the world. An earnest genuflection to those who rise to labor, to income. A city that works. I'm with you in the pastel cast upon a bus driver's dawn shift, in the eerie fluorescence that covers a teenager stocking cans past midnight. I'm with you in the teachers rummaging through dollar stores, and in the women pushing strollers of children not their own.
In the strange rocking of parked trucks behind the 24-hour hardware store, and in the echoes of vaults in banks bearing the flag of some republic or another, I'm with you. How I curl around you, the lamppost, and I, the ruined sedan. I'm with you in the steam rising from a cart of boiled elotes, in the snap of a ballpark franc, in the simmering white wine of chicken Vesuvio from the kitchens of restaurants with white tablecloths, where the string quartet moves from couple to couple, playing songs like Bella Notte. In the din of an alley lit by a dumpster aflame, and in the grating scrape of the subway, breaking, then roaring, then breaking again, I'm with you. How each winter I pray for snow, then the strength to endure it. And never could I imagine that this pendulum between desire and toil was for naught. Okay, I'm going to take a little break from my poems, and I'm going to read a poem that inspired the next poem. This is from, and I have to apologize to all of my friends that are here, because all I ever do is talk about Sarah Gambito, my favorite poet, and I'm going to do it again. And I'm sorry, but it's from this book, Matadora, Sarah Gambito's first poem, or first collection. And, you know, honestly, I just take any opportunity I can to talk about this woman, this poet, and her wonderful work. So I'm going to read a poem, Asian American food poem. I'm better than them all, she said, knitting her eggplant costume. Though I am in despair, I have internet access. I've been admitted to the fiesta. I drank beer, pinched the children, admired the dogs. The fact that he's Filipino and sings really hard into the mic makes me lie unprotected with only bangles on. I'm one of those. I mean, I'm also Filipino. That's an understatement, underwear. This is so similar to my accident, my fuck a poet syndrome. I have a beautiful, I inform the others. It's young yet, and full of bile and Sylvester. And so my next poem starts with an epigraph from Sarah Gambito's poem. And it goes like this. Though I am in despair, I have internet access. Sarah Gambito, Asian American food poem. Asian American food poem. In public school, every apple was a red delicious. Even as a girl, my textural preference for gala or gala. Each holiday season, my father sold his pineapple glazed ham. I stopped eating pork as a teen. Now every week I broil shioyaki, and that is not the empire's fault. Like duty-free Toblerone, that a produce worker at the carniceria asks me to stop squeezing avocados. Because I'm Catholic, or because I'm an immigrant, I order filet-o-fish. I was in love with a Chinese man, so I ate his ham sandwich. The farmer's market is for people who want to feel good. I don't even know what a date is. I can hate sinigang and not my people. But I make a baguette from YouTube because the white lady calls it artisanal. Okay, you'll have to forgive these next two pandemic poems, because really nothing else is happening to me right now. Oh, my worry, I reach for your hand. scribbling on the back of this Medicaid mail to the tune of a common tiredness. The cardboard piling against the back door. I used to go places like I was going places. The difference between outside and inside when there is no door. For a time, the promise of a cat in every bodega. These days, a rover landing on Mars. I can sink my teeth into every lox bagel and still fear the open sea. I once met a woman furious about the perfume in Earl Grey. Threw an actual fit about it. Could she imagine another world? Dating simulation games and Texas strung out with snow. For 3 weeks, my sedan buried in ice, the thaw that will render it a boat. So I ordered 2 pairs of hiking boots, one for myself, and one for myself when I'm feeling brave. Okay, last poem. Thank you all so much for being here. Thanks Sadia for organizing this, and thanks for my fellow readers for making the time to share this space with me. Oh, and thank you, Brooklyn Rail. Thank you. Okay. Staying home. To take stock of what I already have. 1 good man, 2 rascally kittens, 2 couches for us 4 to share. To crack the spines of books waiting for a time like this. What a phrase. To stay up too late, to wake up early, to remember time at all. To nap every day, surprised by how high the sun is when I wake. To talk to friends through screens and sip our separate wines. To slather my face with many creams in hopes for a wrinkle-free future or a future. To salt the pot of water till it tastes like the ocean. To miss the ocean. To miss my father. To scroll through countless movies and decide on none. To clean out drawers, underwear, sock, condiment, junk. To consider a walk, but not take a walk. To sear a steak on high until every room fills with smoke. To open the windows, to let in some air. Thank you.
Thank you, Helene. It's wild just hearing your friends' voices read poems. Like, I was on the verge of tears multiple times, and I'm like, come on, don't be crying on here. But also, like, that Filet-O-Fish poem made me realize, like, diasporas share so much. I was like, is Helene Muslim? Because it's definitely a Muslim thing. The Filet-O-Fish. But thank you, Helene. All right, moving on to our next poet, Janice, who I love. Janice and I met in VONA in the Bay Area, 2018. And it's been lit ever since. I'm gonna read your bio because there's too much good stuff in here for me to be like, I met Janice at VONA. Oh, funny story about me and Janice. Okay, so there was a time where, like, we were really trying to have this important conversation. We saw each other on Instagram. I was like, oh sis, call me. And so I give her my number, she gives me her number, and we're texting the whole day. And then finally I was like, yo, she's not responding to me. And so I hit her up on Instagram again, and I'm like, yo, what's going on? And she's like, yo, I've been texting you all day. Turns out we were texting 2 different people. So it's been no shame in our game. And then we had to have an actual conversation on our actual phones. Janice Lobo Sapigao is a daughter of immigrants from the Philippines. She's the author of 2 books of poetry, Microchips for Millions, Filipina American Writers and Artists Incorporated, 2016, and Like a Solid to a Shadow, Timeless Infinite Light, 2017, by way of Nightboat Books. She was named one of the San Francisco Bay Area's Women to Watch in 2017 by KQED Arts. She was a VONA Voices Fellow and was awarded a Manuel G. Flores Prize, Power Scholarship to the Kundiman Poetry Retreat. She's an assistant professor of English at Skyline College, the 2020-2021 Santa Clara County Poet Laureate, and a Poet Laureate Fellow with the Academy of American Poets. In 2020, she started Santa Clara County's first Youth Poet Laureate program. Janice, take it away.
Oh, wow. Thank you to Sadia. Thank you to everybody for being here. It's 10:30 on the West Coast, so I am kind of like still waking up. But yeah, I think it's just, I just have like those morning anxieties. So that's kind of like where I am right now. I am also having a lot of gratitude, right? So I'm really thankful to the Brooklyn Rail team. I'm super excited to just be in the room. Thank you to Helene, my former Kundiman small group leader, for reading. And I'm excited to hear Taylor and Nabila. So just thank you everyone, all 61 people who are here. I miss readings. I miss anonymity in readings. And I just felt like, oh wait, I want to put in the chat like an access transcript. So if you want to follow along, you can. There are 4 poems there. I'm only going to read 3. I don't know what the third one is yet, but if anything, you can just read it. So it's there. Does that work? Can I just get like a nod or, okay, thank you. I see Nick, thank you. Yeah, so if you want to follow along, please do. The first poem is about cleaning a loved one's house after they pass, which is a long, long process. And this feeling of the poem is like kind of where I am right now. So I'm just gonna read it. Another night and I can't sleep. This is my like pandemic poem for this bunch. Another night and I can't sleep. Instead, I watch yet another season of Sister Sister on Netflix. And I don't even toss and turn in bed. Worse, I lay still in the dark and imagine myself watching the small screen on my phone. And I get up to squeeze oranges into a coffee mug and it's 12:43 a.m., which is pretty late considering that I spent the whole day cleaning my mother's backyard without her, with people in my life who I think love me but do not know me, with family who teach me how to cut off tree branches and gather the yellowing plants into a corner, with my former student who is now one of my best friends and mentees, and her mom, also a Capricorn like my mom, teaching my husband how to use a saw and hedge cutters. Somewhere in here, I wonder how to cut off my brother and stepdad from my life. Men are a constant disappointment, and they let me down over and over, and it's an old moon at this point. I know I am from a Filipino family because today we cut off a huge chunk of a tree, and someone even yelled timber. I don't know why it felt right, and no one else but me flinched and cheered. And damn, didn't anyone else feel the weight lift up and away? No. I know I am from a Filipino family because every time I say grief or I'm not ready, every time I say a painful truth of mine, of theirs, I think they hear music, the kind you play to hurry along, to push past the moment quickly into another. I tell my cousin, an Aries who has a voice like a megaphone, that it's easier for me to clean the outside of this house, that the inside is like a waxing moon. And I always thought that to wax meant to spread, but it means the opposite. To wane is to come down from being complete, maybe even full, but the house is still empty. How can there be so many things inside with no people inside of it? What even makes meaning? I think that at around midnight, I decided I don't want to be polite, that to be joyful and to have boundaries is not mutually exclusive. I wonder how much can I accomplish if I yelled my truth at people? Like if I had told my old boss she couldn't talk to me that way. If I had told stupid men in my community that they are straight up sexist. If I had not lived a time in my life where I had so many times I'd take back. Regrets, I have 3 planets in Cancer. and it shows. When I hear a noise in the house, not the house where I spent my whole day today, I think someone is listening to the noise I am making. Is someone there? I wish. Is someone listening? I don't know. My husband suggests to invest time in the people who give us time, and damn, he is right for right now. His moon is also in Cancer, and how come he is more water than me, but I am the one here crying? I want love languages to apply to all of my relationships that involve other people. I want people to check in on me, and I want to unlearn not asking for it. Right now, I have a friend who always checks in, and thank poetry, not God, that they hold me when my family can't or won't. Thank goodness, thank persimmon trees, thank the feeling that being underwater sometimes takes away bodily pains. Thank aging lemons for its shapes, for taking on the phases of the moon. Oh, the chat is happening. Thanks. Thanks everyone for listening. That's really like where I am. And I don't know. I'm just gonna read the next poem. These are all like drafts of something. I don't know. This next poem is called I Would Run. I don't know why I've just been thinking about like could, would, and should a lot. I really like those words because they're words of possibility. And so this poem begins with an epigraph by Lucille Clifton, whom I love. The epigraph begins, may you kiss the wind, then turn from it. Someone on social media asked what women would do if for one day there were no men in the world. And someone said what I'd say. What I would say is pedal shoes to pavement and spin my legs in infinity sign. I would pump my arms, elbows, shadowboxing against sundown. My freedom is a series of songs. I'd run miles into the troposphere and I'd greet the sky. I'd float, I'd sing, I'd exhale. So many women said they'd run at nighttime somewhere where everywhere is a nowhere safe enough. Having borders and having boundaries are not in this sense the same. My body, my mind run curves against expectation, against traps. What I would do is a conditional statement, and conditionals contain the future in them. So I'm speaking a futuristic language. I'd be running my mouth a marathon. I'd be a movement, a wave, a crash, a breakbeat without fear of a man mistaking my silhouette as his invitation, without catcalling, eclipsing my own worry with erasure. This is not a poem that hates men. This is a poem that will never outpace patriarchy if the pavement isn't perishable, if expanse is not afforded to everyone. May women never carry the lines men cross. May body language never more be mutable. Thanks for clapping, I see you. I really would just love to run outside. You know, I really love running outside. I miss running outside. And it's just been like, I definitely because of the pandemic, I don't want to, but mainly I don't want to because I'm tired of men yelling at me as I run, you know? It's really like, I don't know, I can think of so many times where that's happened. So I'd rather just not. So you can see my like indoor bike next to me. It's just like, it's worth like my peace of mind to just like stay still sometimes. And let's see, third or fourth poem time. I'm gonna read the next poem on here. It's called Venus. That's probably going to be my last one. I know Helene, in one of your poems, you mentioned the Mars rover, which I've kind of been following too, like the Mars Perseverance, which is weird. So I'm just going to read this last poem. I have an astrology podcast with my friend who's an astrologer. And then I really love that horoscopes and zodiac signs are having a glow up. You know, I just really appreciate that people are trying to track their signs and stars and what it means. I think it's just another way for people to really understand other people, if anything. Some people also judge others based on their signs. But anyway, the planets are like looking at us, even if we're not looking at them. And this is after Fatima Asghar's poem, Pluto. I don't know Fatima. I have been reading about her and I just want to send like love and thoughts her way. Venus. Everyone sexualizes my curves, says I am attached to Mars, but the last time I checked, I was my own planet. Held my own in the galaxy, carried my own weight in this bitch, no offense, son. Played no moon to no one's sun, no offense, moon. I am a sulfuric ocean to my own molten waters. Everyone on earth thinks I belong to someone else. Everyone convinced themselves Mars is the hot one, but I am the hellish one. I'm volcanic. My skin is permeable, but impenetrable. I'm a 10 times 10 times 10. That's 1,000 degrees. My skin glows and you call it gas, but I call it space juice. I'm named after a Greek goddess, the only female here in this sausage party, in this meat market, this boys club, the first lady of the solar system, the queen of the constellation. I'm the second brightest of the bunch, your morning star, your evening glory, a greenhouse. A day with me is longer than your year. All the mathematicians track my body. All the astronomers watch me move. All the philosophers think about me all the time. Tell the cartographers I said no paparazzi, please. How many space agencies have spent their money waiting to see me spin? How many men have tried to resist spending government dollar bills? How many politicians would throw down a stimulus check for the burn of this good ass, this gravity wave? I used to be water and land and air. I used to be like Brother Earth, but you won't get to my heart by orbiting my surface. Don't you know you have to last longer than 127 minutes? You have to really withstand what all the spacecraft never could. I will melt your armor with a graze. I will incinerate your steel if you try it. What is the formula to cage an inferno? You will never know. Your machines won't satisfy your craving. You'll never get close to my winds because you can't come for me. Venus. That poem always brings me joy. I just love reading it to people. One other thing I miss, and this is like the last thing I'll say, I just miss reading things like without audience sometimes. I don't know, just wanted to say that. I see people nodding. Thank you again for having me. I'm gonna be here for the rest of the reading, hyping everyone up. So thank you for having me.
Yo, thank you for being here. I can't stop smiling. This is just hella dope. All right, I'm gonna introduce Navi now. Navila Lovelace is a first-generation Queens-born poet. Her people hail from Trinidad and Nigeria. Sons of Achilles, her debut book of poems, is out now through Yes, Yes Books. You can currently find her kicking it in Tuscaloosa. One thing about Navi is when she laughs, it sets the whole room, like the whole room has to get to laughing because she just has one of the most infectious laughs. So that's my favorite thing about Navi. Go ahead, Navi.
Oh man, thank you so much, Sadia. Thank you to all the fellow readers, all the homies. Thank you, Brooklyn Rail. I'm really hyped to be here. Shout out to this noon situation. That's where I'm in the noon hours. Love a lunch poetry session. This is amazing. Okay, so I am just gonna quickly read a quote. I'm reading this book from called Conversations with Toni Morrison. And this sentence was her response in terms of thinking about the responsibilities of a Black writer. So they're asking her, do you feel any responsibility specifically of being a Black writer? And she said, yes, I do. I feel a responsibility to address, well, I say myself. And with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into my poems. The first one of which is called When We See Us. Hair rollers set under what oven doors pack, strands of coiled bounty bound to heat. Real gold won't flatten till 2000 degrees, so make it hot. Real hot girl shit, hot girl summer. I've drawn in my peacock feathers, raising with each step on the block. My moo-moo wafting in the wind, glitters catching skin light like the sun's wink. Every she cross-legged in the salon. Glass window is front and length is ceiling to floor. For the jaw drop of onlookers' sweat, I pass the salon to say what up to Poppy at the bodega and part my dollar snapple from its encased brethren. Poppy knows me and my cotton, my mane half done, half plaited down ears of corn, half stood as unhacked weeds at attention. My cousin whole yelling not to go out there with my hair like that. My man's dawdles his mountain bike close to the kind of nature that is paved over. This being how I learned love, concrete, my knees in gravel beds, taking road into the home, my skin unpeeling to its white meat like a potato, and still timed every store run for the unspiral of roller sets. Curls, a buoyant wave of shimmer, catching every metal surface, jealous of this kind of gleam, glamour, unbound to gravity. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and move into my next poem, which takes its quote from Shakespeare's The Tempest, but is not about Shakespeare or The Tempest. Anywho, it's called By Inch Meal, a Disease. Maggot and mosquito mother infectious encounters. Call home to the fen. Flooding makes a marsh and unhouses the land. I picture skin, inch by inch conversion to new flesh. Without medicine, I've seen the body be made a speedy disposal, dejected ground. Profitable and prosper both contain prospero, prospero, prospero. I too have made incantation of the man's name who gave me a borrowed tongue. He planted a flag and dispensed what made up his brain. Start small and end larger. Expansion is a uniform my lineage can't shirk. The water is enclosing, body thinning in a baptism of English. I could say that colonialism was a disease, but that would suggest a cure. All right. So I'm just gonna get into a couple more of these poems. So this next poem thinks about, I don't know how many of y'all remember like when you had to go in to take one of those standardized tests and they'd be like, you have to bring a number to pencil, right? And so this is called Standard Number 2. Grandfather shucked the lead head of number 2s to sharpen the point when I handed him my broken pencil. After his steady grip seared my brain, his choice blade, his straight arm, a lowercase L pushing snow off a windshield, a parallel force, his arm chipping away tree husk to point. My eyes took footage so I could take up a blade like so and do away with the second grade wall mounted sharpeners machine were. Us pupils opted out of bathroom breaks to line up in front and return to our desk with a needle's envy. Another day, with the sun dotting my eyes. Another second grader stabbed me with a freshly sharpened mead. Or was it me that wielded my shading tool? Or did I see my sis take one to the arm and alarm in shrieks of lead poisoning? Overheard in adult air and stories that came after 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Mine were a front line of stuffed animals, and below my sleep, a prime blade for carving. All right. I've just got one more poem I'm gonna read. Thank y'all again for coming through. This is so ill. Just excited to be here, excited to gather around poems. And so this last one has the same name as the first one, When We See Us. When we see us, oh, the one thing I'll say is, I don't know how many of y'all remember AIM, the AOL instant messaging site, but that's referenced. Yeah, when we see us, she who we said we would never be the bitch on the other side of a screen door in the rain for 2 hours over a nigga. Us, two sisters huddled over our AIM accounts to our other little girlfriends about the girl who would not dub the low drum of my sister's brother's name. We laughed and were thunder laughing at her. If we were preteen smokers and not late teen smokers, we would have tossed blunt guts over her underachievement. The kind of shorty out in a shower for a nigga was never my plan, and still I found myself dick silly in a city with exclusively closed bars. Found myself in a pool with no water, tracing fish into a side wall for the prospect of a window. I mean, when I left my nigga, there were no trumpets, no vuvuzelas for enacting midnight. Fact, he was a nigga in need of leaving. My neighbors remained on their side of the wall with their dog and their own raised verbs. I put down the dog tequila raised in my chest, my voice a low crumble, get out, fists to nouns again. I mean, once I was tied by the hip to a man who did the dishes and a mattress with a sunk in crate for a dip. But today it's 58 degrees and in my crew neck, I walk a river's length. And who else were we to have? Our mothers had their own laughs. All the girls were not our sisters. Some would be our misters. Thank y'all.
Damn. Thank you. Shit. All right. Taylor Johnson. Taylor Johnson is the author of Inheritance, Alice James Books 2020, and their work appears in the Paris Review, The Baffler, Scalawag, and elsewhere. Johnson is a Cave Canem Graduate Fellow and a recipient of the 2017 Larry Neal Writers Award from the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities. They live in New Orleans, where they listen. That's such a dope bio. All right, Taylor, I'm gonna hand it over.
Cool, thank you for having me. Yeah, this is great. Thank you, Brooklyn Rail. I'm gonna read, first I'm gonna read a poem by Christopher Gilbert from the book Turning into Dwelling, which was published after he passed. This poem was written in 1986. He was a resident at the Frost Place in New Hampshire. Tourist. Because it is the root that is the work, you could take the world itself to mean yourself. Into these hills you've taken to, like the present, you could take place and be one with the subject of your feeling arising before you. The way the queen's lace sways could be an indication of your breath coming and going. as if an outline for time itself. Here I am stepping forth as an instance, walking the mountain road to the hilltop where around the bend I'll hear someone working on the house, the frame of whose part, the material and the aesthetic and their perishing, linked together, will stand for history. It is July, the goldenrod drooping heavily at the road's edge, the daisies all over, exploding with white rays, the colt's foot buttery and nodding thistle rose purple everywhere itself. The little water in the wind all at once reminding me of myself. I am into small steps here. I total the bits of me. I've lived in countless places, childless without song. And now no church of time ahead behind whose doors one can walk and be transformed, enormous again and facing the sky. I'm nearing the end of my youth, not nearly the person I thought I would be not half my life ago when life's sure, blind, ubiquitous outbreaks of energy for doing something, search for a home for the empathy that would be me. Armstrong walking the nearer moon, and me hot-headed, 20, with a future seeming never too soon. Seed whose crazed circumstance among things yielded its mysterious blooming. Now the people passing me in the cars, faces red and pink, swollen like the climbing bittersweet berries, bouncing up and down like dice in trustless boxes, might just as well be me, caught in a body nowhere completely at home. The little water in the wind reminds me of my sorrow, a quick gust I can't explain. What is happening is me, even as I see the bee balm's bright star, call the hummingbird into its circle, even as every doubt I am is my flowering home that you have called me into, world. I'll read, that was Christopher Gilbert. Christopher Gilbert, brilliant poet who wrote the book Across the Mutual Landscape, which won the Walt Whitman Award in 1983. And then Turning into Dwelling, which I just read from, was published after he passed. Yeah, but I'll read from Inheritance, which I wrote now. Since I quit that internet service, I'm thinking more about the transitive properties in books, the words, the palimpsest images accruing in my brain, but more immediately the book in my hand, the cover worn at one end from sweat and gripping it when it comes close. Close as in when I stood up, let one deep exhale when I came to the lines of all fearless happiness from which reaches my life I sing and find it underlined by a beloved stranger. It's like turning the record over, knowing you're hearing what I'm hearing, easing up on the edge of the chair. It's like we're holding hands now at the edge of a white silence from which we are to make a music of our being here, of being moved, wherein our music complements and holds close each other's sound in the wet room of the tree I met you in. Nothing is said about the water or the fearless trees angled toward and against the light that did fall on me, made much of me, light that sings through me, so I'm singing. Consider the deer. Consider the deer who, when I say deer, doesn't know whether or not I mean a single one, though there were two dead and shiny with maggots on the side of the highway, or a group of them, always a bit lost in the divided woods, blame our need to reach or leave each other faster. Consider the deer that I saw dead on the shoulder, midday, mid-autumn, whose neck in post-rigor mortis pining broke itself again so that the head could face the woods setting itself alight. Oh, that I could turn and live again, the deer might say, recalling that one poet singing to himself, ruining the grass. Consider that the deer, when called, won't come alone. purely due to linguistic vagary, who, like me, resist the gesture toward singularity. Call my name, and the whole woods rise up inside me. I is a plural state of being. Consider the multitude before my footfall, how I'm able to crane my neck back, see only myself. Semiotics. In the dream, I am my father riding through the Thai countryside with a banjo playing itself in the passenger seat, strapped in like a baby. The light falling so thick it makes a brass bowl of the valley, the light articulating green to the day. I want to sing it real, what I saw with his eyes, like a river sings to an ocean until the river is a cloud. Sing the song a cloud sings to a mountain. Sing it true and liquid the light falling. I resonate, I green, I steam ring and undo my face. I let the new light undo my face. I become my father's distance in the temple, the glinting Buddha head casting gold between the floor and his frayed shadow. His fallow voice repeats the mantra, leave, 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 as he passes glass beads between his fingers. My father rocks side to side in prayer. I become that groove. I weep as my father in devotion and anger. We write the same letter to my mother. You are, you did, you. I become my father as speed on a highway. The tape deck playing associations. Father is to fathomed as phantom is to what? The answers draw a sentence across the windshield as crude lines. I'm a banjo driving, trying to read the blueprint my father left. I think it was his voice. I forget about money, watching the clouds over 8th and Ingraham. The clouds, a rhubarb-colored ship in the sky. To my right, it all grays out. The bats emerging now from the chimneys, the bats listening for the cicadas' echo. Echo is a way to create space, is a metaphor for time. Time for the cop to move along, I think, watching the cop watch me from my porch. Fuck 12. The robin on the wire vine, the wire eye competing with the bats for cicadas, the robin competing reds with the sky. The sky, a money for the cicadas, a way to make space, time. The cicadas sounding out the future through repetition. A friend says to spend nothing is to keep flexibility in your hands, to keep your youth. Money, the sound of decay. Money, the repetition of waste. A kind of wildness descends, and across the expanse, the attendant wind drones its one feckin' song. When I'm so tender in the thick of rot, I let all the morning wet spread a plague across this threadbare vessel that holds in what hums, what rushes beneath. Give as the ground gives. Make of me your groveling tongue, your dust, your possessed, possessing, never let up. Thank you.
Woo! Thank you. There, listen, you read so calmly, so quietly, but it is so devastating. So thank you. That was incredible. Thank you for your offering. Damn.
Wow. So yes, thank you everyone for reading. Thank you, Taylor. My goodness, I was enthralled. And gosh, I appreciate everyone's presence here. The readers, the guests and the organizers. I'm having such a great time, and it is really wonderful to have a lunchtime reading. So I have the great pleasure of introducing my friend, the curator, Sadia. And you know, we heard her bio in the beginning, so and it's also accessible online. Maybe what we'll do is we'll just chat a little bit. Sadia, can you talk a little bit about what has been, what was like the inspiration for this collection of readers? I know that you said, you were just sort of curious about what everyone was working on, but I mean, I think you have you've collected a bunch of really incredible artists for this event. So I would just love to hear a little bit about this.
Damn, thank you. I get really nervous when I get asked questions, but the truth is, I was thinking about diaspora, and I was thinking about how limited when we think of diaspora, we have such a really small and limited view of it. We think about a particular people maybe spread across a few different states, a few different countries, and we're always thinking about it from one locality. So I'm like, oh, the Somali diaspora, the Filipino diaspora, but I'm thinking about us as diasporic young folks, like folks who've lived in multiple states, folks who are writing across borders constantly, and whose work is still in conversation, right? Like even across the landscape of like Helene, your poems, Nabila, your poems, Taylor, Janice, I could see everything from desire to a longing for connection to just like a reckoning with death and childhood and the body, right? And like wanting to feel beautiful. And so hell yeah, I've been reading y'all shit, and I like it was like there's just so much here that's already in conversation and I think knowing some of y'all, right? Like I was also going off of energy, and I miss people and I miss my friends, and I was like, I want to see my friends with their friends, right? I was like, how do I make folks comfortable? I need to pick at least one other person that they know and they love and that they've already shared space with, someone whose voice they're familiar with. And so that is how this happened. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for it. Yeah, Joshua is in the chat saying friendship. Absolutely that. So, with all that, thank you for this. Thank you again to Brooklyn Rail, and I'll let you take it away.
For sure. Thank you. So in the same way that Helene is obsessed with Sarah Gambito, I'm obsessed with the people's poet, Lovin Usman. And I every day just show up and I try and preach the gospel of Lovin Usman, okay? More people need to read her. Sis needs her flowers today, yesterday, and tomorrow. I just think her poetics are frightening and just, strange. I love it so much. And she has a deep love for Black women and Black girls specifically. And so I will be opening up with one of her poems from Exiles of Eden. What I love about this particular poem, Practice with Yearning Theorem, is that there are also pictures. And so I'll be reading just the back half, but the poem is a meditation on grief and on like, there are pictures of like a Catholic church in Somalia and of like Baghdad and ruins. So I just wanted to read the last part to open up a couple of poems of mine. I visit countries in trouble. If there's water, I go there first. I look for green. Last, I look for airports, other infrastructure. Mogadishu, Aleppo, Baghdad. In Somali, jab means break, fragment, but also defeat or loss. The meaning is closer to the motion between my joints and teeth and valves. I sunder in a different language. My hope scatters in time. It's true, I'm alien here. I used to say after all and mean at the end or finally. After all, America has broken my heart. The English is sufficient. Whew. With that, I'll read a transliterated Abecedarian. You guys can't see, but parts of it are in Arabic. I think that's the transliterated part. I'm doing my best here. Transliterated Abecedarian in my father's voice. 1. After loss, the memory hovering behind the memory, returning like a bat to circle our heads. Tonight, Your American brothers thinking to themselves of loneliness in their American bedrooms, dream of a more perfect father. Habibti, I tried my best to welcome goodness and calamity, both endured what was meant for me without opening a window into what must necessarily be left unlanguaged. The sea air, briny with a week's wailing, fear the sky's blood-torn eye would return to ruin my sleep. In my dream, an archer's lark chases me to market, zooming past stalls, its sand-colored belly kicking up enough dust to cover some poor bastard's grave. 2. Shame how silence becomes its own country. Summer arrived breathless and we found nothing quite fit our mouths, but rain, until finally the familiar. Quiet comfort of a loosening tongue. My daughter, no one, not even your children, can remember for you how or why today you are running from the still, slick breath of morning. Whew. All right. And then this other poem. So I've been trying to think about WhatsApp and what it does for us as immigrant communities and families, and just waking up to voicemails and text messages from across the country. WhatsApp confessional. Men love endurance. Women who wait by the door with dinner, slick bottomed and ready to fuck, panting in heat while they work the world over, eyes clear as spring rain. 103. Womb of my womb, if you had seen me those first years, you would not believe me human. Donkey maybe, stinking and hellbound, pregnant within the month. 127. I labored the minute I arrived, rode the bus into downtown, begging the driver to wake me when the hotel came into view, but he only ever jammed the brakes and I woke, gripping the seats near vomit. 156. Summers I worked nights, passing men your father's age, blowing on dice under coned light, thumbing ice-trimmed beers from a cooler, the gnats gathering thin as a wedding veil above their heads. 156-59. I knew desire when I smelt it, had been a girl once, yeasty and thumbed, the node of a man's growing wonder quickening my gait. In those years, I drew close to a fist, ready to scare, to scatter in the wind, trembling and sweet, breath whistling the carpet. Whew. WhatsApp devotional. The last wedding I attended in place of you, hopeful. Audio 127. The World Relief told us the kids should ride the bus. Hopeful he who fortifies water would tend the nook of your thirst. But we walked them, being that they would return scraped, flinching at shadows. Secure yourselves. Zamzam the morning after, where I cannot protect you, abundance. Rode the bus with her firstborn. In this world and the next, the police met her at the school. Every tree one burdened with fruit, every intention barring ill will. The police watch the buses leave us every morning. Never lose what hope you came to acquire. In court, our admission. After ease, hardship, and ease after, we held him down. One limb dressing the other. Her daughter pummeled. Your hands, the hands of a donkey, be studied against your enemies. what can you do? When made to answer for our privations, what can you do? Bear witness on my behalf. I did not damn you, but had only the one life. Okay. I'll do it. This poem is from an acrostic from my favorite Mississippi artist, Adrienne Michelle, who exclusively paints Black girls doing really dope shit, like just living their life. So this one was a portrait of a young girl who's on a swing, grass behind her, and a big blue sky. So all you see is blue sky, grass, child in a white dress on a swing. What I thought I wanted was the sky. Untitled Adrienne Michelle, young Black girl on swing, blue sky, green pastures. The sky, its blue mouth on my mouth, sweet hymnal of the cerulean morning. Cirrus clouds, a flash of teeth at my ankles, and my ankles too precious to dangle from a swing. See my white dress, the ribbon of pine mother made for me. I want to be like other girls, recall my body to write it. Sprout wings mid-air, twirl slow as a leaf caught in a tangle of sun, and yet I can only ever remember its wildness. Jump, slick sweat, tender beat, and swing, can you see me? I close my eyes against the wind and its questions. Hey, Black girl, how'd you get all the way up here? All right, and to close off this really dope reading, I'm gonna read one final poem from my best friend and sister, Jamila Usman, whose chapbook, A Girl is a Sovereign State, is a treasure, and a book I return to often, and a woman who keeps me grounded in my life, my actual life, in which we pretend there was never a war. Holy kingdom of hash and sweat, mu'adhin crowing in the distance, the days made in just 6 days. Whose God do you pray to when fear buckles your knees? What name sterns your bowed mouth? Light from the minaret pierces the sky, waning gibbous, a poet's favorite metaphor. I squint and it is small enough to fit in my pocket. If we try, we can pretend we are anywhere but here. Our people have never known catastrophe. No one died for us to meet here in the land of exiles, on these streets lined with what our fathers could not utter, not in any language of their departure or arrival. Soldiers fire tear gas into crowds of unarmed civilians. The gas becomes a balloon animal puffed to brilliance above the heads of small children. Martyrs bloat to life. A storm of bullets spin backwards towards the mouth of their sin, ants unfollowing a trail of crumbs. We are not the victims of this war, nor the children of its consequence. There is no blood on our hands, only the pale red light of evening. You pass me a cigarette and I inhale, orbed end of our chosen sky. This is all we know of fire, all we know of smoke. Let me pretend this love is fate, an accident unmarred by the bright wound of our histories. I reach for your hand, look, everywhere our bodies touch a country where our mothers sing and do not weep. Oh my God.
Thank you very much, Sadia. Thank you, Nabila, Janice, Helene, Taylor, for such a beautiful event and for sharing so much new, shiny, raw work, as well as that which reaches deep into the radicality of survival and creative persistence now and ever. I want to also take this moment to thank our very own Emily Dean, who has been gracefully shepherding this series since its inception, Today's her last event with us, and she's been such a constant, kind force for good on our program that I want to pause and give it up both for her, a poet herself, and all the poets who read with us today and throughout this series. It's roaring applause, Emily. We all know how to interpret claps that we see now into sounds in our minds. So the roof is off. And yeah, usually this is the point where I let everybody know that it's the Rail's 20th anniversary and ask you to please contribute to our campaign. But I'm very happy to announce that yesterday we actually met our goal. So today we're just sending a big fat thank you to everyone who has contributed with your labor, with your words, with your money, with your time, with your attention to this, this loving space that we have, especially on Wednesdays. And yeah, we do this event, we have a new social environment every day. It's not poetry every day, although there is poetry in every event. And tomorrow we will have a panel on curatorial activism and queer curating at 1 p.m. capped off by poet Mimi Tempest. So everyone's welcome. It's at the same time. And this is the point of the event where everybody is welcome to turn on their mics and make a lot of noise.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Amazing curation.
Incredible readings. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Really
Thank y'all so much for doing this.
It was magical.
Thank you.
Extra
Amazing.
Tomorrow.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.